Yeah, so because there's a bit of a flip side on transferring culture. When I was watching Rama One Half, anyways, it speaks. One character says he's the transvestite, and he says, I'm a guy, and then the subtitle response is, well, nobody's perfect. And when I saw that, clicked. Oh, that's from reference to Some Like It Hot. It was like the last one. Well, okay, maybe.
Yeah, no, I know the film you're talking about. I don't really remember the exact line, but
one, AFI, it was one of AFI's top 100.
Right.
But the English dialogue was totally different, and I thought, how did they miss that?
Right. Well.
Or could this be an off day?
But the person, usually the person doing the subtitles and the person, it almost always is. The person who's doing the subtitles is not the same person that's writing the English dialogue script. So sometimes the choice that I made, for the using the Tina Turner song, and I think it's going to be very funny in English. I have no idea what they're doing with the subtitles. They just may use an exact translation.
So there is no coordination then between the subtitler and the adapter?
Not usually. Sometimes I have in the past contacted, tried to find out who, the person who was working. When I find something like that's an error in the translation, I have on occasion contacted them before for things like that. But for that sort of thing, it's just a personal choice. It's not really going to change the gist of the story. I mean, the whole point is that they're talking about they don't want these people to fight. So even though I used slightly different words than they used, mine's going to be funnier because if they just use the direct translation, nobody's going to get it. So, yeah.
Just on the question between the differences between translation and adaptation of subtitle versus dub. On the subtitles, then, a lot of times, do they have to focus on the length and size of the words on the screen?
Exactly. I mean, yeah, because that's your goal. It has to be very concise. You have to use as few words as possible to get the gist across of what they're saying. So I don't know what the rate is that was determined, but there's a kind of a standard rate that is used that is considered to be like I don't even want to say an average reading rate because they want to do it a little bit slower than average because sometimes, I'm sure you guys have had this experience because I know I have, and I think that I have at least an average to above average reading rate that you have. It's so annoying if you have to pause it. And if you have to keep pausing it, you pause it, rewind it, and pause it, rewind it. I mean, that's no way to try to enjoy a show. So really, yeah, your goal is you want it to be as concise as possible. And I probably did scripts for, I don't know, a dozen or so subtitled shows back years and years ago. And then they got some in-house people at ADV that were doing that. I never said this, but maybe I should make this clear. I'm a contract worker. I'm self-employed. I don't have a place of employment other than working in my office in my house. ADV had gotten some in-house people to do the subtitling stuff, and so for several years I didn't do any kind of script work at all. And then at one point I just kind of decided, hey, maybe I could try my hand at script adapting. And I contacted the person that was in charge of production, and I knew who was in charge of giving out the writing tests. And I told her that I wanted to do a writing test, but I said, don't tell anybody I'm doing it. Because I wanted to do it under a fake name so that the person who was going to be judging it would not know that it was me and would not be biased one way or the other. And I passed the writing test, and so I've been doing it now for about 5.5 years. I've done about 200 scripts in that time. And like I said, most of them I've been fortunate to be the only writer on the projects that I've worked on, which has been, I've really enjoyed that. You get a lot more freedom. It's great when you kind of can establish certain things from the beginning and continue that and to just be really consistent with what you're doing. I have had to pick up a couple of shows, and that's kind of annoying because then you go, oh gosh, I would never have made a choice to do this or that. But once it's been established, you know, this character calls this other character such and such, or this character speaks a certain way, then they just have to keep doing it. Like I wrote scripts for the second season of Oh My Goddess, and it's a completely continuous story, the first and second season of the Oh My Goddess TV series, and it's the same cast and everything doing the roles, which is very good, because it would have been, I think, extremely disconcerting to change the entire cast halfway through the show when it's, you know, this completely continuous storyline that's being told. So I had to go back and had to watch all of that first season that had been recorded, and then I had to watch the whole second season that I was going to write, and I made up this whole cheat sheet for myself, like this person calls this person this name, and this person calls, because it was, you know, everybody had some different nickname for the other person, and do they call this person by their given name or their surname, and do they call them, you know, Coon or Chan or something, you know, I have to know all this stuff of like, because you have to maintain that consistency of what everybody's calling each other and all that stuff. Wow. that I have to say, that added a whole other layer of difficulty for me in writing that show, to have to pick up from what someone else had been doing, especially when I had not worked on it at all. Big OMG fan, so it was very awesome. Oh.
Do they still just do the writing test method of getting into it, or do you have to be?
Well, I can tell you what the test was that I took, and I don't, that's actually not what they're doing still at ADV, so, and I'm not really sure exactly what other studios do. What I did is they gave me the translation for an episode of Sayuki that had not been released yet. I think it had maybe already actually been recorded, but they just gave me the translation and the episode, and I wrote a script for an entire episode. And very soon after that, the writing test became like, do 5 minutes. And I'm like, oh thanks, that's super. That's super. That I spent like 12 hours doing that writing test. Great. And in fact, then another thing that they started doing was, for a test, they would give somebody an episode of a show that was currently in production, and then use it to record, and if it was good enough, if it was working and they felt like they could use it, the person would get paid for it. Like, this is so not fair. That is not what I did. I didn't get paid anything for my writing audition, you know. But and I'm not really sure at this point what's being done for writing tests. It may be that same thing, and the only studio that I've actually written scripts for is ADV. I've done quite a bit of voice acting with Funimation, but I have not done any writing for them, so I'm not sure what their writing test is or how they do it, or that's the part of